Hey guys, welcome to Tweaktown Plays. This is Derek Strickland. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo. Now I'll be the first to admit I wasn't too amazing at this demo. It was a bit strange, a bit wonky for me to figure out. It was a bit awkward at first. But the more I played it, the more it grew on me. Now you're going to see my first playthrough and it's not going to be amazing. I kind of suck. But ultimately, this game has a lot of potential. The graphics are amazing. The combat is pretty good too. It's like Final Fantasy 15, but not at the same time. It takes a lot of strategy, a lot of planning. Final Fantasy 15 was more timing, but this is more about paying attention, if that makes sense. You have to pay attention to your surroundings. You always have to figure out like who you need to attack, how you manage your resources. It really is like an RPG. Now your first instinct is to run in there and just slash everything. That's like the worst thing you could do because you're just gonna get hit a bunch. You really have to have a finesse and understanding of the combat, and the only way to really learn that is to keep playing. Now Cloud's attacks are just amazing. Like, they're so satisfying. And that's part of the problem though, because you kind of just see you get hit a lot and you just want to just keep striking everything you see and just spamming attacks. Now the backdrops are really nicely done. I think Square Enix has outdone themselves insofar as the graphics and the environments. It's like, it really does look next gen to me. It's one of the best looking PS4 games I've seen. And now, now we see why it's taken so long for them to create this game. Now the combat, like I said, is all action based. You can slow it down by selecting, you press the right trigger, and it selects kind of like, you want to do your abilities, you want to do your limit break. The staggered thing is cool. So when you attack enemies, you can stagger them, and they take more damage, they're down. And you're going to see that I don't do a good job of actually blocking. It's a really big important part of the game is you block attacks. And you don't just sit there and try to attack everything. The camera is weird. So you lock onto one central target, and as you're okay, so this is one of the cool things. Now you're gonna have like a quick menu, and you can assign different abilities, different items, and different things to this quick menu, and it saves you a lot of time, especially if you know what you already want to do. Sometimes you'll get like weird anxiety, like you'll get nervous when you pause the game and you're freaking out because there is kind of a lot of pressure when you're playing this. It's not like the old days where you could just kind of sit there and wait for a while and plan your next move, consult the guidebook. I mean, you can kind of pause it with the menu, but not really. And a lot of the enemies have an insane amount of health, so you're really going to have to pay attention to your surroundings. Now you see I'm trying to use the ATB attack, and my gauge isn't full, and I don't really understand that. It's kind of confusing at first. You're like, what's going on? But as you attack, you fill up your ATB gauge, and you can't use items, you can't use certain abilities until that gauge is full. It's a learning curve, and it's kind of like Dark Souls where you want to roll out of the way, you want to try to block attacks, and you really want to pay attention to the sequencing of the enemies. It's really important that you pay attention to what's going on. But I come to find that the environments are so beautiful, there's a lot of stuff going on the screen, every attack is flashy. Sometimes it's hard to pay attention to every little thing, and it can be really weird. Now there's various smaller attacks in between that you can push off whenever you have your ATB gauge full. And it varies the combat some, but like the general instinct is just to keep spamming the attacks over and over and over, and that's really what you just want to do the whole time. But you can't do that, you have to pay attention. Now this was the Scorpion boss battle, and this was pretty intense. I'm not very good at this game to begin with, and this battle will really kind of test you. Like, there's not a lot of guidance here, so you kind of just have to feel it, you have to wing it, and you have to try things. And it's one of those things where you just have to keep experimenting to figure out. Now it's been a long time since I played the original, so I don't necessarily remember how like the boss battle went in the original. I don't know if that gives you a lot of clues this time around. But what you're supposed to do is use thunder against the machine enemy, obviously, and that's not something I really realized too well. It's just one of those things, like you just have to mess with it. So the battle is pretty intense, and I keep trying to, what I'm trying to do here is change to set Barrett's thunder to the actual quick launch, like where you can do the macro commands, but you can't do that while you're in battle. You can only do that while you're out of battle, and that's kind of annoying. I don't really like that too much. So that means you got to manually use attacks that aren't actually assigned to the macro keys. And it's tough though. This battle was pretty annoying. I won't lie. I think Cloud died like 3 times, and Barrett's pretty good because she can use steel skin, stuff like that. But Cloud, you just kind of have to roll and block everything. But this fight, it felt like an actual boss battle. It felt electric and alive, and it's not something I was expecting in this kind of Final Fantasy game. Like, you know, you would feel that in Final Fantasy 15, you would feel that, but here it's exponentially enhanced. Now, there's certain things I don't like about it. Like, I don't really like how Cloud's roll is kind of janky. I kind of feel like he could be faster. He could be a little bit more adept, more agile. But I can't really make a lot of excuses because I wasn't that amazing at this. I'll freely admit that. The more I tried it, the better I got at it. But it's still one of those things you just have to keep doing, keep playing. And I know I've seen a lot of videos where people are just, you know, getting it right off the bat, but until you know the sequencing and the attacks, it's kind of hard to predict. And in that way, it really does feel like Dark Souls or Bloodborne or something like that, where you really have to learn the boss battles moves. You have to learn the sequences, what attacks they use, certain transitions. This boss has, I think, like 4 transitions. And of course, I'm not doing amazing at the damage input here. I really like there's such dynamism in the battles, but also it's frustrating at the same time because as you're playing, there's this desire to want to destroy, to slash, and just to keep the action going. And you can't always do that if you don't know what to do or you don't know how to like tackle the boss. So there's some counterintuitive forces here. So I really think that Square Enix, the hybrid between an RPG and an action game, is even greater than Final Fantasy 15, because this time around you really have to, like, not even strategize, you have to be able to on the fly adapt to what's happening. It's really interesting, and at first it's a frustrating type of thing. It's like, what am I doing wrong? And you don't really know that until you just keep trying, or you watch a video on it, watch someone that's better than you play it. But ultimately, I really do like this game. I think that at first I hated it. It wasn't really fun. It was just strange. But you really will get the hang of it. And once you get the hang of it, once you find that rhythm, that's really what it feels like. Like there's a rhythm to it. But there's also pacing. And the pacing is the RPG part, where you really have to, like, okay, I want to fortify Barret, use steel skin, protect against attacks. You know, I need some potions. I'm gonna cast fire, whatever. Like, I'm gonna cast thunder on this enemy. There's certain times where certain attacks work best. It's just, it's a transition point, and it's really cool for the franchise. I see a lot of potential for this to be a Game of the Year contender, if not the Game of the Year contender, which is that's tough to say because, you know, we got Cyberpunk and all kinds of stuff coming out this year. New Assassin's Creed. And one thing I'm really interested about is this game playing even better on the PS5. Like, Square Enix no doubt will release an enhancement patch for this game to run even better on PS5, and I'm hoping that the frame rates get boosted. Not that they're bad to begin with, but I do feel like this game could be faster. there is a desire to want to be faster. Like, you just want to keep attacking everything. It's a very strange feeling. Because that's not something I was expecting to feel in a Final Fantasy VII game, but there it is. As you can see, this battle's lasted a little too long. But if I had to score this demo, which is kind of a weird, like a weird proposition, but I had to give it a score, I'd probably give it like 8.5, based on what I've played so far. Based on all the time that I've replayed it maybe twice, but I decided to show this because this is my experience in the rawest form. This is my first impressions, my first time playing it. So I was like, I'll just stick with this one. I'll explain why it sucked and why, like, what's happening. And pretty much you suck and you don't really know what to do. And that's kind of the crux of the game. But the ATB system is cool. The camera is weird. The voice acting is terrible. It's not good. Now, one thing I don't like, yeah, I get shot a bunch. One thing I really don't like about this game is during the cinematic sequences. I really cut those out because I don't really like those too much, and it doesn't give you any control. So half of the game is you watching cinematic sequences that you can't control or really interact with all that much. And the other half is big action sequences. So it does feel like a cinematic type of thing. Like, if I had to say, this is pretty much Advent Children plus Final Fantasy 15. That's pretty much what I would call this. But realistically, I would like more control over the cinematic sequences at the very least. Like, I don't expect dialogue sequences, but I expect, like, at least being able to, you know, in the first classic games, you could press X whenever the dialogue boxes would come up. You could press X and the scene would move forward at your behest. That's really not the same here. It just will move forward unless you pause it. So, you know, like, I kind of just wish it was like the old one, but it's not. It's new. And as far as quality, the cinematic sequences are amazing. The animations are immaculate. I expect nothing less from Square Enix, Final Fantasy VII. Even any Final Fantasy, they always do amazing jobs. But I need more interactivity. Yeah, that's really the main point. Ultimately, though, I'd still give it 8.5 out of 10 because it is fun. And if you haven't yet, really just play it. Try it out for yourself and see what it's like, because it's like everything that I've played, like an action RPG or action game, but then again, it's not. And it's a really interesting hybrid. But that'll do it for us, guys. I hope you liked Final Fantasy VII Remake impressions. It's a really interesting game. You should download it, try it out, see what it's like for yourself. Pretty crazy. Controls are a little wonky, but all in all, it's good, and it's going to pretty much be one of the best action RPGs on the market. I really think Square Enix is going to sell amazing volume of games, and this is something they need because their latest financials aren't tremendously well. Like Rise of the Tomb Raider and Just Cause 3, those games didn't really do that well, so they need something like Final Fantasy VII Remake to really buffer those sales. Be sure to keep an eye on our YouTube channel for more content from Tweaktown Plays. This is Derek Strickland signing off.